Discover the heartwarming truth. My son texted dinner's cancelled while they feasted on my 50th. Bob stood in his backyard, the warm evening sun casting a golden glow over the grill bubbling with barbecue. His heart raced, a mix of excitement and apprehension. Today was supposed to be the day he surprised everyone with a bash for his big 5-0. Friends, neighbors, heck, even little kids from down the street would pay tribute to the man who fixed their cars and lifted their spirits. Yet, in the throbbing quiet of his heart, he felt a void that echoed louder than laughter. His eyes lingered on the empty seat at the table. Jake, his boy, was supposed to be here. He imagined the two of them squished together among friends, sharing stories about baseball games and bikes from days gone by. Now, that seat felt more like an accusation than an invitation. With every guest that arrived, Bob glanced at his watch, hoping to see his son tearing down the street, a wide smile plastered on his face. But the longer he waited, the more the sun dipped behind the horizon, and the more that anticipation twisted into something heavy. Meanwhile, in an opulent conference room in Silicon Valley, Jake sat among colleagues, his plate filled with exquisite food, the buzz of ambition wrapping around him like a warm blanket. Yet, within, guilt gnawed at him like a persistent rock in his shoe. He stared at his phone, battling himself. Should he tell his dad he couldn't make it? Just a simple message would do. Dinner's cancelled, he typed. And just like that, the words flew away, numb and devoid of warmth. When Bob's phone buzzed a few minutes later with that dreaded text, it landed like a hammer on glass, shattering the remnants of his joy. As he read it, his heart sank, memories flooding back of late nights in the garage, his son laughing while he wrestled with stubborn machinery. Sleepless nights spent hoping for all the best for Jake, and here was a text that seemingly erased it all. He fought back tears as disappointment twisted his gut into knots. Dinner's cancelled, the emptiness echoed in the hollow of their once inseparable bond. He was at a loss. What could he say to make it right? How could he communicate the love and sacrifices made, a father's devotion now tangled with resentment and confusion? Guests arrived, their laughter filling the night air, but each chuckle only deepened the shadows of absence felt from Jake's absence. Bob realized something had to change. Instead of ignoring the hurt, he needed to face it. As guests toasted him, he felt the weight of unspoken emotions bearing down, reminding him of the values he held dear: loyalty and connection. But how could he make Jake understand? Did living out in that glitzy tech haven blind Jake to the love his father offered? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The night wore on, the echoes of laughter mingling with Bob's silent prayers for understanding. Was it too late for a reunion? Would they ever bridge the distance that had grown as ambition replaced old memories? The question weighed heavily on his heart as he wandered through the crowd, chest tight and eyes brimming with hope, wondering if tonight might reveal what he had yearned for most: a chance to reconnect with the son he loved so dearly. Bob watched as the sky darkened, stars twinkling like forgotten wishes above him. The clinking of glasses and faint chatter filled the air, but all he could hear was the silence of that empty chair. He took a deep breath, trying to shake off the weight of disappointment, and forced a smile for his guests. How about we all share a favorite memory of Bob? One guest suggested, sensing the tension. Cheers erupted, but Bob felt a lump in his throat. He nodded, grateful for the goodwill but stalled by his own pain. One friend stepped forward. I remember the time Bob rescued my car from the side of the road. It was pouring rain, and there he was, soaked to the bone, making sure I got home safe. Laughter roared as others jumped in, swapping stories about feats and failures alike. Bob chuckled, but his heart ached at the lightness that seemed just out of reach. As the night progressed, a simmering frustration grew within him. They were sharing joy, yet he felt a disconnect, like an outsider watching the world dance from behind a fogged-up window. No one knew the shadow lurking behind his smile, no one but Jake. His phone buzzed again, pulling him from his thoughts. A new text came through. It was more than a simple message. It was a photo, sent from Jake. It was an image of the beautiful hillside view from his office, the sun glinting off the glass buildings below. Underneath it read, "Hope you're having a great time, Dad." Bob's stomach sank. "Why, Jake?" he whispered to himself. The words felt like nails in his chest. He typed back but hesitated. What could he say? The truth collided with a wave of uncertainty. Maybe the joy of his job wrapped his son in a bubble that kept him from the raw love Bob offered. Forcing himself to refocus, he decided to step inside and grab his guitar. Music always connected him to his son. Even when they hadn't seen eye to eye, that old guitar had accompanied countless family gatherings. It was a time capsule of their laughter and love. A few guests erupted in cheers as he returned to the yard, strumming a few familiar chords. Voices quieted, and one by one, his friends joined in, creating a small chorus of voices that filled the night air. Bob poured his heart into the song, letting each note breathe life into the moments that had slipped away. But as he sang, his thoughts drifted back to Jake. Would his son recognize the song as a bridge back home? Just then, his phone vibrated again. This time, it wasn't Jake. It was a notification from their family group chat. Bob hesitated, heart pounding as he opened it. Moments later, he saw an unexpected message from Jake's sister, Emma. "I think you two need to have a serious talk." Bob's fingers froze on the strings. He looked up, his friends sharing smiles and laughter, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within him. The darkness felt closer now as a new realization began to dawn. A confrontation was necessary, but where would it lead? Would it be a path back to healing, or further into the abyss? With a deep breath, he set down the guitar and made his way towards the house, the weight of unresolved questions clinging to him. What conversation awaited him? Would Jake finally understand what was at stake? As he opened the door, he heard the laughter fading into the cool night. He needed to face his son. And he needed to do it now. The house felt oddly silent as Bob stepped inside, the laughter of his friends muffled behind him. Each footfall echoed on the wooden floor, amplifying the peculiar stillness that enveloped the space. He glanced around, taking in the photos on the walls, each frame telling a story of happier times, a time where laughter filled every room and connection didn't feel like a distant dream. His mind raced as he approached the living room, the glow of the lamps casting soft shadows across the room. Where was Jake? The urge to call for him battled with the anxiety swelling in his chest. Would his son be waiting, ready to talk? Or would he retreat, hiding behind the walls Bob had built around their relationship? "Jake?" Bob called, his voice barely rising above a whisper as he made his way down the hall. He could feel the heaviness in the air, weighing down on him like an anchor. His heart raced, uncertainty clawing at the edges of his will. In the kitchen, he found Emma hunched over the sink, washing a stack of dishes. She looked up, her eyes wide, mirroring the mix of worry and resolve he felt inside. "Bob," he asked in his room. Her voice broke the tension, but her gaze remained serious. "You need to talk to him. He has been different lately." Bob nodded, swallowing hard. "I know." As he approached Jake's room, he hesitated. This was a chance to bridge the gap, to shatter whatever misunderstanding had built up between them like a fortress over the years. He knocked gently on the door. "Jake?" There was silence. "Yeah?" came the muffled reply. I want to talk," Bob said, unsure how to proceed. "About what?" Jake's tone was guarded, tinged with something Bob couldn't quite place. Was it anger, disappointment, or something deeper? "Can I come in?" After a brief pause, the door creaked open. Jake sat on the edge of his bed, the scattered remnants of childhood old toys, trophies, and worn-out books surrounding him like ghosts of a past that felt so distant. "Hey." Bob took a deep breath, the words catching in his throat. "I got your message, and I wanted to see how you're doing." A flicker of emotion crossed Jake's face, but it was gone almost instantly. "I'm fine." He shifted on the bed, gaze focused on the floor, avoiding eye contact. Listen, Jake, I know things have been tough between us. I've sensed a distance for a while now. The honesty surprised Bob, yet the vulnerability felt necessary. I miss you. Jake looked up, surprise evident in his eyes, but it quickly faded. You think that showing up once a year is enough? His voice was harsh, defiant. No, I don't. I'm sorry if that's how it seems. I just wish we could connect again, Bob stammered, his heart pounding. The silence stretched between them, thick with so many unspoken emotions. He could see Jake's facade cracking. I wish you'd just talk to me like you used to before everything changed. Everything inside Bob twisted at the mention of change. He mentally cursed himself for not fighting harder to keep their bond intact. Okay, he said finally, his voice steadying. Let us start over. Tell me what's going on. Jake hesitated, his walls still fortified, but Bob could see the effort within him to open up. Just as he was about to respond, a loud ruckus came from outside, laughter spilling through the windows. The stark contrast tugged at Bob's heartstrings, reminding him that the world continued outside while they remained locked in this moment of raw vulnerability. Do you want them to come in? Jake asked, his voice softer now. Bob shook his head. No, this conversation is just for us. Jake nodded slowly, and after a brief silence, he finally said, I feel like I'm drifting away. Bob's breath caught in his throat. There it was, the honesty, the vulnerability. But how would he respond? What truth would he share? And as they stood at the crossroads, something inside Bob told him they were both on the brink. Would they soar together or fall further apart? With every beat of his heart, he braced himself for the answer that would shape their future, not realizing just how pivotal this moment would turn out to be. The room felt smaller, as if the walls were closing in around them. Bob could see the uncertainty flickering in Jake's eyes, and it mirrored his own. Truth hung heavy in the air, ready to be spoken, yet so fragile that stepping on it felt like a risk. Jake, Bob started, his voice trembling just a bit, I'm not just some guy who pops in and out when it's convenient. I know I haven't been there like you needed me to be, and I regret that more than you can imagine. Each word was imbued with the weight of his guilt. Jake rubbed his neck, a common habit when he felt uncomfortable. It's hard to trust someone who just disappears. It messes with your head. His voice cracked, revealing the depth of frustration that had long been buried. Bob felt a surge of emotion. He wanted to reach out, to pull Jake into an embrace, to let him know it was going to be okay. But they weren't there yet. I understand. I've made mistakes, but I want to fix them. I want to fix us, Bob confessed, vulnerability pouring out in waves. Jake shook his head, the tension palpable. You can't just say that. It's not that easy. Maybe it isn't easy, but it's worth it, Bob replied, his voice firmer now. You are worth it. I know I've let you down, but I want to learn what you need from me. Please let me try. For a moment, Jake held Bob's gaze, a myriad of emotions flickering across his face, hurt, longing, and even a glimmer of hope. The silence stretched out, thick with anticipation. Bob could see the fight in Jake. It was almost as if a storm was brewing right in front of him. Okay, we can try. Jake finally relented, if only slightly. But it's going to take time. I'm tired of feeling like I always have to reach out. I need you to meet me halfway. Absolutely. Just tell me what you want and I'll do it. I promise, Bob assured him, hope blooming in his chest. Jake leaned back against the wall, his posture softening. I just want to know you're there. That you care. It feels like I'm always the one trying to make things right. Sometimes I just want you to be my dad even if I'm a teenager now. Those words hit Bob harder than he expected. The realization washed over him like a warm wave. I want that too, Jake. No more excuses. How about we find something to do together? Just us? No distractions. Jake shrugged, the edges of his mouth lifting just a little. We could go play basketball at the park, if you still want to embarrass yourself. Hey, I might surprise you, Bob chuckled softly, breaking the heaviness in the room. The tension shifted ever so slightly, an opening where hope could breathe. As the outside laughter echoed louder, a tender smile spread on Jake's face. It was fleeting but noticed, as if a door was creaking open just a bit. Okay, fine. Let us play ball. Awesome, Bob said, his nerves easing. Their relationship might not be fixed right away, but this moment felt like a step in the right direction. Just remember, Jake shot back, teasingly, I've been practicing and you're probably still terrible. We'll see about that. Bob laughed, pointing at Jake playfully. Just as they were about to leave the room, the laughter outside changed. It morphed into the sound of a ruckus, voices raised high in celebration. Bob's heart sank momentarily. Right, his birthday party. Bob hesitated, anxiety creeping back in. Would this new connection withstand the noise of the outside world? But before he could voice his thoughts, Jake turned to him with a fierce determination. Let us go be part of it, then. Just remember, you're still my dad. The strength in those words wrapped around Bob like a lifeline. As they stepped out together into the warmth of the gathering, a curious sense of hope traveled between them. Yet, Bob couldn't shake an unsettling thought. Why had Jake really texted about dinner being canceled? The moment felt charged. He hoped they were on the right track, but there was so much more to unpack, and he could sense it. Would their attempts to reconnect survive the truth hidden beneath the surface? The party buzzed with energy as Bob and Jake entered the living room. The cheerful chatter and laughter enveloped them like a warm blanket. Colorful balloons swayed from the ceiling, and a large cake adorned with flickering candles sat proudly on the table, surrounded by an array of gifts. Yet, amid the celebration, Bob's stomach churned with unease. Hey, everyone! He called out, forcing a smile that felt slightly painted over. Friends he hadn't seen in ages waved enthusiastically, coming over to offer their well wishes. We missed you, old man, joked one of his friends, slapping him on the back. Bob laughed, his heart still wrestling with the earlier conversation. Jake stood slightly off to the side, hands shoved deep in his pockets, watching the festivities unfold. Bob caught his eye and gestured him over. You want to help me cut the cake? With a reluctant nod, Jake joined him. As they stood in front of the cake, Bob glanced at his son, noticing the way Jake's shoulders tensed. He could see him grappling with the noise, a part of him still in that room where they'd shared such raw words. Just breathe, Bob whispered, almost to himself. We're in this together. Jake's small smile returned as he took hold of the knife, and together they sliced into the cake, sharing a moment that felt both simple and monumental. You ready? Bob asked, glancing at Jake again. For what? More embarrassment? Jake quipped, a spark of humor illuminating his face. Bob chuckled and served the first piece of cake onto a plate, extending it toward Jake. No, for you to take a shot at me on the court later. Jake rolled his eyes, but there was a hint of a smile there too. Bring it on, old man. As the laughter peaked and more guests began to slice into their own pieces, Bob felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Maybe, just maybe, tonight could mend more than just their strained relationship. Happy birthday, Bob, shouted another friend, raising a glass. The room echoed with similar sentiments, voices lifting in cheer. Thanks, everyone, he called out, gratitude swelling in his heart. But as he looked around, he noticed Jake retreat a little further back, his earlier resolve waning. Bob's heart sank. He could see the young man wrestling with his thoughts. Jake, hey, Bob moved toward him, creating a small space between them. You okay? Yeah, just a lot, you know? Jake glanced over the crowd. It's all loud, and I just feel different. Like, I don't know how to fit in here. Bob's heart ached at the vulnerability in Jake's voice. You being you is enough, buddy. We're family. That's never going to change. You want to step out for a bit? Take a breather? Jake hesitated. Maybe. But can we leave in a few? Yeah, we can. Just us, Bob assured him. The moment felt fragile, like spinning glass. They turned slightly, a wall of noise falling away as they moved toward the porch. The cool night air was refreshing against Bob's skin. He exhaled heavily, the tension lifting ever so slightly. Jake, Bob began, unsure of how to approach the real issue. About the the dinner thing. Jake looked at him, eyes narrowing. Yeah, that. Why did you cancel it? Was it just about the party? Jake took a moment before answering, a hesitant flicker igniting in his eyes. I didn't want to feel like I was a +1 to your birthday. I just wanted to be us. Us. The way Jake spoke the word brought a sense of unity Bob yearned for. Yet there was something else beneath it, an unspoken question that lingered between them. As they stood in the stillness, Bob felt the weight of his son's hidden truth pressing down. "What else is there, Jake? I want to know." Jake's face tightened as the world around them faded. Their shared moment weighted with unresolved feelings. With the celebration still ringing behind them, the night felt fragile once again, as if they were on the brink of discovery. Could they finally face the truth that had been lurking in the background all along? The darkness of the porch wrapped around them, yet the vibrant sounds of life poured in from the party. It felt like they were in a bubble, separated from all the laughter and joy that felt just out of reach. Bob watched Jake closely. The way his son's brow furrowed told him there was more lurking under the surface than simple discomfort. "Jake," Bob said softly, gauging his son's reaction. "You can tell me anything, you know that, right?" Jake shifted, the wind picking up slightly, causing a loose strand of hair to fall across his forehead. He glanced down at his shoes, the weight of whatever was behind his eyes pulling him closer to the ground. I need you to understand where I'm coming from. It's so hard to explain. I feel like I'm constantly trying to find a place where I fit." Bob's heart ached for the boy who had become a man, yet still bore the confusion of youth. "I get it," he replied, stepping closer. "Every time you think you figure it out, life throws something else your way. But you're my son. No matter what, you've always got a place with me." Jake let out a small, humorless laugh. "But maybe we're both confused about what that really means." The night air felt thick with unsaid words. Bob wanted to reach out, to bridge the gap between them, but he sensed Jake's hesitance. He took a breath. "Can you try? Just this once?" His voice broke a little. "I don't want to be a project. I don't want you to think you can fix me. I'm fine how I am. I want you to see me, not just the version of me you wanted." Bob felt the sting of those words, but understood. He had spent so long focusing on his own expectations that he lost sight of Jake altogether. "I never wanted you to be a project. I just want you to be happy." Jake's face softened, but he didn't meet Bob's gaze. "Happy is hard, Dad. Especially when I keep getting pulled into all these expectations. Like tonight, I don't even know how to be part of the celebration. It's just so loud and big." "Then let us change that. Let us make our own celebration," Bob suggested, hoping to ease Jake's burden. "How about we get out of here, just us? No noise, just peace for a little while." Jake's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but something in Bob's voice seemed to spark a glimmer of hope. He nodded slowly. "All right. I think I'd like that." They stepped away from the railing of the porch, breathing in the cool air together. Bob felt a sense of relief wash over him. But still, as they moved toward the car parked in the driveway, he couldn't shake off the feeling that they were only scratching the surface. The low hum of the party faded behind them, replaced by the quiet night sounds of crickets chirping and leaves rustling. Bob's heart raced, wondering what they would discover in the moments alone together. What deeper truths were waiting to be unearthed? As they crossed the yard, Jake looked up at his father. The moonlight glinted off his eyes. "Dad? Yeah? I think I need to tell you something that's been on my mind." Bob's breath caught, anticipation flooding the air between them. Could this be it? The moment where everything changed? "Okay, I'm ready. Just say it." And in that tight moment, with a world of noise fading around them, the question lingered in the air. Would they finally break through the invisible barriers that had kept them apart? Jake hesitated, his eyes darting away into the shadows of the night. The air felt charged around them, heavy with both anxiety and the promise of something real. Bob's heart raced, his fingers twitching at his sides. He wanted to pull his son into a comforting embrace, to shield him from whatever storm was brewing within. "Dad, I'm afraid," Jake finally whispered, the words breaking the stillness between them. "I didn't choose this life. I feel like I'm playing a part in a movie, and I don't know my lines. More than anything, I don't want to let you down." Each of Jake's words pierced Bob like a dart, and for a moment, time stood still. He wanted to tell his son that he could never disappoint him, but he realized that didn't quite capture the depth of what Jake was feeling. "You're not letting me down, Jake. You're just figuring things out, just like I did when I was your age." It's okay to feel lost sometimes. But what if I never find my way? Jake's voice trembled, the vulnerability shocking both of them. What if I'm just not meant for the life everyone expects? What if I'm just not enough? The starkness of that admission hung in the air, heavy and raw. Bob felt his heart twist painfully. This wasn't just about Jake's future. It was about the fear that plagued so many, conforming to the expectations of others and losing sight of oneself in the process. You are enough, son. Enough just as you are. You don't need to mold yourself into someone else's idea of perfect. Jake's gaze finally met Bob's, and in that moment, the space between them felt both exposed and filled with new understanding. But what if I go a completely different direction? What if I want to drop everything and travel the world, or, I don't know, become an artist? What if I want to do something that seems reckless? Bob studied Jake's earnest expression, realizing how desperately he longed for freedom. Your life is yours to live. I want to place limits on your dreams, even if I don't fully understand them. Just promise me one thing. What? Jake asked, the intensity of their conversation weighing on him like a storm cloud. Promise me that you won't shut me out while you figure it out. Trust me, I can handle the truth, even if it's scary. You're not alone in this. Jake swallowed hard, a flicker of relief easing the tension in his shoulders. I'll try. I just have to figure out what that truth really is. There are moments when I feel different. Like I don't belong. Bob nodded, feeling another pang of empathy. And that's okay. Life's about exploring those feelings, untangling them, and discovering who you really are. That's how you find your place. The two stood in silence, the gravity of their exchange settling in, yet the world beyond the porch felt lighter. For the first time that night, there was hope, a shift in the dynamic. A step toward something resembling connection. As they walked toward the car, a soft smile crept onto Jake's face, illuminating the night. So, where does our celebration start? Let's get ice cream. Just you and me, Bob proposed, excitement bubbling within him. It was simple, but full of possibility. Jake chuckled, the sound echoing and vibrant in the stillness. Ice cream it is. But, can we talk a bit more along the way? Bob nodded enthusiastically. Of course. This is just the beginning, Jake. But as they climbed into the car, something nagged at the back of Bob's mind. He realized the changes we often fear the most could lead to the most profound revelations. What was Jake still holding back? What secret remained just below the surface, waiting for its moment to emerge? As the engine hum came to life, the road ahead felt uncertain and exhilarating. The real journey together was just beginning. The drive to the ice cream shop felt like a leap into the unknown. The reassuring hum of the engine, accompanied by the soft glow of the dashboard lights, created a comforting atmosphere, yet Bob couldn't shake the seriousness of their earlier conversation. He glanced at Jake, who was staring out the window, the city lights reflecting off his face like a reminder of all the choices waiting to be made. Do you think it'll always feel like this? Jake's quiet voice broke the stillness, pulling Bob from his thoughts. Like I'm just out of sync with everything? Bob considered his response carefully, steering them down the familiar streets. I think a lot of people feel that way at your age. You have so much on your mind, and it's okay to wonder about your path. Just remember, feeling different doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It often means you're meant for something unique. Jake's eyes widened, glimmers of hope surfacing within them. Unique, it sounds nice, doesn't it? But it also seems really scary. Like I'm tipping over the edge whenever I think about going after what I want. His voice trailed as if he was grappling with the weight of his own thoughts. Bob felt a pang in his chest that reflected both his son's fear and his own deeply rooted desire to protect him. You know, sometimes the edge is where we find our greatest strength. I've faced it too, Jake. Dreams don't always come easy, but they're worth striving for. Did you ever think about just leaving everything behind? Like, starting fresh? Jake asked, his curiosity pulling away the veil of fear that had clouded his mind. A slight smile tugged at Bob's lips, remembering the wild moments of his youth. There was a time when I wanted to escape. I had dreams of traveling to places like Paris, living in a tiny apartment with paint on the walls. But then I would think about what I'd be giving up this family. These moments, his voice softened, emotions surfacing like tiny bubbles. You have to find a balance between chasing your dreams and cherishing what's in front of you. Jake nodded, still lost in contemplation, the flicker of streetlights dancing in his eyes. So, how do I do that? How do I figure out what my dreams are? By exploring what makes you feel alive, Bob replied warmly, glancing at Jake. Start small. What do you love? What brings you joy? I like drawing, Jake admitted shyly, almost as if it were a secret he was hesitant to share. But people say it's unrealistic, you know? It feels like they're always pushing me toward something else. Something safe. Bob's heart swelled with pride and worry all at once. Safe doesn't always equal happiness. Art is a part of you. It's essential. Don't let those voices drown out your passion. His words hung in the air, charged with the hope of possibility. As they pulled into the parking lot of the ice cream shop, Jake's mood seemed to shift, a spark igniting within him. Okay, I'll look into art classes. Just to see where they lead. But only if you promise not to roll your eyes at my doodles. Bob laughed, relief washing over him. Deal. But I might enlist you to help design a family mural. They stepped out of the car, side by side, ready to dive into a scoop of sweet, cold celebration. For the first time, Jake seemed less like a boy wrestling with uncertainty and more like a budding artist ready to sketch out the beginnings of his own story. In that moment, everything felt possible. But just as they walked toward the entrance, an unmarked text notification pinged on Bob's phone. He hesitated for a heartbeat, sensing a shift in the air. What could it be? Who could it be from? Curiosity and concern mingled in his gut as he pulled his phone from his pocket, the screen lighting up to reveal a name he hadn't seen in years. Bob stared at the screen, the name shining back at him like a beacon from the past. Sarah. A quick pang of confusion shot through him. The memories flooded in long talks, laughter, the plans they built, all wrapped in a sweet haze of nostalgia. It felt like a lifetime ago. Dad? You okay? Jake's voice nudged him back to the present. Yeah, just I wasn't expecting this, Bob replied, forcing a calmness into his tone. The name echoed in his mind as he slowly clicked it open. The message was simple. Hey, can we talk? Bob's heart raced as questions swirled. Talk? After all these years? Why no? He glanced at Jake, who was busy examining the vibrant ice cream flavors displayed on the board overhead, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in his father's heart. Everything all right? Jake asked, finally sensing his father's tension. Just an old friend reaching out, Bob said, keeping it vague. The last thing Jake needed was to absorb his father's worries. They headed inside, the sweet, chill air a stark contrast to the heat of Bob's thoughts. The colors flashed bright in the shop, but the message weighed heavy on him. After ordering a scoop of mint chocolate chip for Jake and a classic vanilla for himself, Bob tried to shake off the unease. They moved to a small table by the window, and the vibrant chatter of other customers provided a comforting backdrop, but Bob couldn't focus on anything but Sarah's text. Here, Dad, try mine. Jake beamed, offering his cone, a bit of melted mint ice cream dripping down the side. Bob took a tentative lick, a taste of sweetness clashing with the grit of his questions. Memories of Sarah flooded back, even stronger, her laughter mixing with the sound of ice cream being scooped, the way her dark hair curled around her shoulders. Jake, have you ever thought about old friends, like, if they reached out, what you'd want to say? Bob's questions seemed to stumble out of him, unexpected. Sure, I guess it depends. If they were nice, I wouldn't mind. But if they were, Jake shrugged, his face scrunching in thought. I dunno, but I do want to ask why they disappeared. Yeah, Bob whispered, realizing how much he'd wanted that conversation with Sarah. To know what had driven her away, to rebuild something lost. Are you going to respond? Jake inquired, taking a big bite of his ice cream. I'm not sure yet, Bob said, looking down at his phone. The buzzing of it in his pocket felt more insistent now, like a heartbeat that refused to calm. Just don't leave me hanging, okay? I like talking to you, Jake smiled, oblivious to the world of emotions swirling around them. Bob chuckled softly, trying to embrace the moment of father and son sharing ice cream, lives intertwined despite the weight of the past. He lifted his phone again, hesitating as he stared at the name, the text, the untold stories waiting. The thought of reaching back out, of stepping back into that chapter, sparked a mixture of thrill and dread. "Jake," Bob began, "what if sometimes old paths lead us back to new beginnings?" Before Jake could respond, Bob felt the urge to reply. As he started typing, a cold breeze swept through the open door, making the hairs on his arms stand up. It felt like a sign. Just then, his phone buzzed again, another message from Sarah. The words flickered on the screen. "I really need to explain, what did that mean?" Bob's pulse quickened as he stared at the glowing screen, his heart pounding with anticipation for the answer that could change everything. Would he dare to open that door? Bob's heart raced as he stared at the screen. "I really need to explain," the words floated before him, filled with both promise and peril. His mind churned with memories of Sarah and all the unanswered questions that still lingered. "Dad?" Jake's inquisitive voice broke through his thoughts. "What's up with the texting?" Bob shifted in his seat, his focus shifting between his son and the phone in hand. "It's just an old friend reaching out." "I didn't expect it." Jake raised an eyebrow, sensing the unspoken weight of the conversation. "Are you going to talk to her?" "Maybe," Bob replied, uncertainty flooding his heart. His fingers hovered over the keys, caught between reaching out to Sarah and staying true to his newfound connection with Jake. A flicker of frustration crossed Jake's face as he took another bite of his ice cream. "You have to respond, Dad. I mean, you once cared about each other. Don't let the past ruin your present." Bob sighed, the wisdom in Jake's words slicing through the haze of hesitation. "You've got a point. I just didn't want to dive back into that chapter and lose what we're building here, you know?" Jake nodded, thoughtful as his eyes met his father's. "But isn't life all about connecting? Even with people we haven't seen in a while? If you think it's worth it, you should take a shot." The fresh resolve in his son's voice sent a wave of warmth through Bob. There was depth in Jake that he hadn't fully recognized until now. "All right," Bob finally took a deep breath and decided. He punched out a quick reply, "Let us talk." "When?" As his phone buzzed almost instantly with a response, Bob felt a strange mix of excitement and concern. Just then, in that little ice cream shop with surging laughter and the buzz of nearby conversations, he felt hope glimmer. "Let us go outside." "I need to breathe a little more," Jake said, finishing up his ice cream with youthful enthusiasm. Bob followed, pushing aside thoughts of Sarah for the moment. This interaction with Jake was a victory, a step toward a stronger bridge between father and son. Stepping outside, the cool night air enveloped them. They leaned against the wall, overlooking the glowing city lights, the colorful reflections shimmering like dreams yet to be realized. "See? This feels nice," Jake said with a grin. "Just us. No pressure, and the world feels like it's waiting." Bob looked at his son, soaking in Jake's unyielding optimism. "Yeah, it does." "Hey," Jake continued, glancing sideways. "Can I ask you something serious?" "Of course." Jake took a steadying breath. "How do you know you're making the right choices? Like, how do you find out what your heart really wants?" Bob pondered the question, remembering his own struggles. "Sometimes it's about listening to yourself. Doing what makes you feel alive, or what fills your heart with joy. You'll stumble, it might feel uncertain, but that's part of the journey." "Just like tonight?" Jake pondered with youthful curiosity. "Exactly." As the night continued to deepen, both the world outside and the one within seemed to open up. Together, they took strides into a fresh beginning. A father, reconnecting with his son amidst tumultuous emotions, a chance to embrace their truths. But just as Bob felt the warmth of newfound hope, his phone buzzed again. It was a message from Sarah. "I need you to know the truth about why things ended." Bob's heart raced, anticipation fluttering in his chest. Was it time to face those ghosts? He eyed Jake, who was lost in thought, finally feeling like they had turned a corner in their relationship. The very air felt different. It was filled with an unshakable connection, each heartbeat echoing the promise of tomorrow. "You know, Jake," Bob began, the words spilling forth. "We can face whatever life throws at us. Together. I'm ready to be the father you need." With a spark in Jake's eyes, he nodded, hope bathing them both. It wasn't just Bob's promise, it was a transformation of their bond, ship's sails catching the wind and heading into the unknown. A wave of renewed excitement buzzed between them, intertwined with uncertainty, yet ripe with possibility, their futures, unclear yet together. And as they made their way back inside, ready to celebrate both the sweet and the bittersweet moments of life, the weight of the past became less daunting. Youthful laughter filled the air, pouring energy into their hearts. Bob thought of the text awaiting his reply, but realized what mattered most was building upon the present. The past could wait, the future was happening in real time, and together they would navigate it all. "Let us go show them how to really celebrate a birthday," Jake proclaimed, a radiant smile lighting up his face. "Absolutely. Ready for some ice cream challenges?" Bob laughed, ready to savor every moment. And with that joyful declaration, they stepped back into the life they were creating, hand in hand, ready to embrace their truth and support each other, finding strength in everything yet to come. Now, as you've journeyed through Bob and Jake's transformational story of connection and understanding, it's time for your own transformation. You need to subscribe now to catch the next heartwarming stories like this one. Leave a like right now to fuel the algorithm, it really makes a difference. Comment your feelings about this emotional ending below. We want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who are ready to discover their own paths to connection. True fans understand the importance of showing support, so let us keep this community growing.